a slight programming change now. We were going to pause for poster sessions from 11:30 to noon. There's one poster, and in the spirit of social connection, she has offered just to give us a quick summary of her poster in a few sentences, so that we can all continue here and just continue having our discussion until noon. So please, one quick little poster presentation. We'll keep it on.
This is what happens when you're too late to submit your talk. You could end up being in a position where you have one lonely little poster on the wall. But my name is Beverly Fehr. I'm at the University of Winnipeg, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here and already feel like this conference has been worth the trip. So the poster up there, one of the options was for a review of the literature. And with my colleague Susan Sprecher at Illinois State University, we have just written a book chapter on the role of friendships and acquaintanceships in predicting various indices of well-being. And so just a little background to the poster. When, in my field at least, in psychology, when people first started looking at what kinds of relationships predict well-being, the assumption was that it was marriage. And so the early studies tended to either look at your entire group of social ties, or more often just look at your marriage and showing that being married, and especially being in a good marriage, predicts a lot of physical and mental and other health outcomes. And then it's been really relatively recently that in social psychology we begun to realize that friendships may also play an important role. And friendships are always described in the literature as the understudied or the neglected relationship. And I'm pleased to report that we now have some really good evidence that friendships contribute in a significant way to virtually any index of well-being that you might assess: mental, social, physical health, longevity, and so on. So that seems like we are on pretty solid footing now with showing how important friendships are to our well-being. Then the next wave in research has been to look at to what extent do our acquaintanceships or interactions with strangers impact well-being. And some of you may be familiar with the Starbucks study, where when participants went in to buy their coffee, they were asked to either just have a brief friendly exchange with their barista or just give their factual order. And then later they assess the mood and so on of the customers, and finding that simply having that casual, very short interaction with your barista, that little pleasant conversation, was associated with better mood, more happiness, and so on, than just giving your order in a straightforward fashion. So we're now feeling pretty confident that even sort of friendly acquaintanceships are important in well-being. And then in the last literally 2 or 3 years, researchers are beginning to ask the question, so now that we acknowledge that friendships and acquaintanceships are also important in well-being, how do they compare to the relationships we used to look at, which were mainly marital and familial relationships? And right now the picture isn't perfectly clear, but we are finding evidence that in a lot of cases, when you include romantic partners and friends in the same analysis, the relationship with the friend is predicting outcomes more strongly than your relationship with your partner. And this relationship becomes stronger as people get older. And there was one study that came out, it's on the poster, I think in 2022, showing that even if you were in an unhappy marriage, if you had a good friendship, you still had high life satisfaction, which I thought was quite a tribute to the value of friendships. So that, in a nutshell, is what's on that poster, and thanks so much for giving me a chance to describe this.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to tie together a couple of things, the face-to-face and the question of family and friends. And I want to just give you guys, I'm a psychology dude, by the way, in case I didn't introduce myself. I'm Steve Jordans. I'm a psychology prof from U of T. But I always find this kind of interesting. If there were an earthquake right now, the rest of us would leave this room more connected than if there were not. Why? If there's an earthquake right now, we are all going to feel a sense of fear, trepidation, uncertainty, anxiety. We'll look in each other's eyes, we'll see each other's bodies, and we'll know they're feeling what I'm feeling. Okay? And when we share emotional states, a hormone called oxytocin is released, the so-called trust hormone. That is the basis of the biological basis of social connection. And so social connection is just formed when individual humans share emotional states, but especially when they can see each other, because 90% of our communication is nonverbal. And so having someone tell you, oh, I'm scared right now, okay, that's fine, but feeling it, seeing it, sensing it, and sensing that resonance, that's where the social connection, that's where the trust is formed, that's where the real belief that this person and I are connected gets into us. So just something to think about, earthquakes as we go through things. So I think John has a video that you wanted to show to kind of kick off, and then I think we're going to have an early lunch so that we can actually practice what we're preaching here and spend some time socially connecting with one another.